Now folks, good evening and you're welcome to another live edition of The Changing Room by EJ Menswear. We have a big one tonight. We've got Matty Holland, Irish legend, with us, and we're going to chat to him a bit about his career in England and the good old days in the green jersey. So we're just going to add Matt in. A couple of announcements coming later on as well about what's coming on later in the week. We're going to chat to Matt about his career starting off. There's Matt now. How are you doing?
I'm good. Yourself?
I can't complain. You can hear me all right?
Sounds good. All good.
Good stuff. The sun is shining in on you, is it?
It's not too bad, actually. It's not too
good.
bad. A bit windy, but it's all right.
Yeah, only for the good weather, I suppose. We'd be a bit lost without all this going on.
Not kidding. You're not kidding. You all good?
Yeah, all is good. All is good. Can't complain. Trying to, I suppose, make the most, take the good out of the bad, what's going on and that. So it gives us a chance to we're catching up with a lot of sports personalities and that. So yeah, it's been good.
Good.
I think just before we get to the football stuff, I seen you've been engrossed in normal people like the rest of us, have you?
Wow, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's just
how good is
off.
it? I'm only. Well, what am I? Probably 6 episodes in, 5 or 6 episodes in. Yeah, I binge watched about 4 or 5 episodes last night. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's actually based in Sligo as well, where we are.
Yeah.
I had a fight with my missus. I wanted to watch Gomorrah, the Italian mafia.
Yeah, yeah.
This is starting. I said, I'm not watching that. And then suddenly it exploded. So I was eating me words and I'm back watching it. So yeah,
no, fair play. It's good.
We get to I suppose a lot of people writing in since we announced we were coming on, Matt. A lot of people with fond memories, me included. We'll get to the Ireland days maybe in a while. I just wanted to maybe start with your club career. And is it fair to say that maybe before you got to Ipswich, you went through the mill a wee bit, you were told you were too small. You went to Bournemouth, and just talk to me about the early days.
Yeah, I did. I was at West Ham actually as an apprentice. Joined there when I was about 15, and was with them till I was 20, and was in the first team squad quite a bit. Travelled with them virtually a whole season, really, but never really got an opportunity. Went on loan to a couple of clubs. Went on loan to Farnborough in the conference. Went on loan to Bournemouth, and I got to a stage where I really needed to be playing first team football, and Harry Redknapp was manager at West Ham, and he was sort of quite good with me really, and said that he wanted me to stay at the club, but was honest and said I'm a bit down the pecking order. It's going to take a bit of time for me to get into the first team, and I was sort of 20, 21 and needing to play first team football really, and not happy just to be sat being a sort of playing in the reserves, being in the first team squad but not playing. That was no good to me at that stage. I needed to be playing, and so yeah, took the move to Bournemouth, was there for just a couple of years, 2 really good years there, fantastic club, before Ipswich signed me back in 97.
And do you think that maybe the experience of actually playing games, dropping down, playing games stud to you? Is there maybe a lot of young players now that you hear a lot about these under 23 teams and stuff, and maybe if they're in them at 20, like, is there maybe a stigma there be attached now to dropping down? Whereas you might the experience probably stood to you.
I think if I was a manager, one of the first things I'd do is with some of the younger players, get them out on loan.
Yeah.
It was what Harry Redknapp had a big thing about it. He wanted his young players to go out and experience first team football and men's football really.
Yeah.
You know, reserve team football's good to a certain degree. You're playing with some good players, some senior professionals, some younger ones who are trying to make their way in the game. But it doesn't really mean anything if you win or lose. Whereas if you start getting to a first team somewhere, the 3 points, you start looking at that thinking, right, that's going to take us up the table, it's going to take us out the relegation zone, it's going to get us into the playoffs, whatever it might be. So Rio Ferdinand actually came to Bournemouth from West Ham.
Okay.
Frank Lampard, I know when he was at West Ham, went to Swansea. So there was a few there, like Joe, who were sort of weren't quite in the first team at 17, 18, but were ready to play first team football. And Harry was quick to get them out on loan, really. And I was one of those, and I think it's the best thing I did. And if I was a manager, that's one of the first things I'd do is send my young players out on loan and get some first team experience. Okay.
And what was Harry like? I mean, I don't think he probably gets enough credit for actually how good of a manager he is. He's this kind of perception in the media that he's like a Del Boy, a wheeler and dealer, and he probably doesn't get as much credit as he deserves.
Do you know what? When he first arrived at West Ham, he was a brilliant coach. He came as the first team coach rather than the manager, and Billy Bonds was in charge at the time. And one of the first things that struck me was how well he was able to coach players, and particularly front players. He seemed to have a really good way of working on the front too. So that was the first thing that struck me when he first came to the club. He's got a good way about him as well. He makes you feel pretty good about yourself. Tim Sherwood tells me that some of the meetings he used to have in the background at Tottenham, he'd be saying he's useless. He said they'd walk out in the changing room and see him and go, "Oh, you're fantastic, best player I've ever seen." So the man management, he just had that way of making you feel like 6 foot tall, really.
Okay, and you done your time at Bournemouth, and then I suppose when you signed for Ipswich. Actually, one of the things I only found out today, and it kind of intrigues me when you hear people say like the Champions League and the World Cup, and these games are massive. But when you think about maybe the logistics and what it's worth, the playoffs to get into the Premiership is probably the biggest game on the planet. You had 3. You were on the wrong side of it 3 times before you finally got up. Is that right?
I joined in '97. I'd already lost the previous year in the playoffs, Ipswich, and then we lost the next 2. We lost to Charlton and Bolton in the next 2 semi-finals, and then eventually. So it was the 4th time for the club, my 3rd time, that we eventually, we got to the Premier League via the playoffs. So yeah, it was a long time coming. George Burley had been there a number of years and was building a good team, really. He didn't have loads of money to spend, but what he did was very clever in the transfer market. He just freshened it up each summer, 1 or 2 out, 1 or 2 in, and he was building a really good team, and eventually we managed to get there,
Yeah, when you did get there, I suppose, we talk about the highs and the lows of football. He finished 5th. You only pipped to the Champions League by Liverpool. He beat Inter Milan in the 1 year, and it was kind of like a contrast. He done so well, and then the relegation came. How would you define that kind of came about?
It's madness, really. I mean, like you say, I think that first year we were a good team. We had some really good individual players. Yeah. Marcus Stewart, I thought, was excellent up top. Scored plenty of goals that season. I think the following year we sort of, it's difficult to put exactly why or nail down exactly why. I think the UEFA Cup took our distraction a little bit. I think the fact is, it was new to a lot of players. We'd sort of done the Premier League, and now we're looking at the UEFA Cup, and maybe that took our eye off the league a little bit. And we actually, once we got knocked out of the UEFA Cup, we had a really good spell where I think we won 6 or 7 out of 8, and we gave ourselves a chance of staying up again. But until that point, we were struggling. I think there was 1 or 2 came in, and not knocking the individuals, but they came in on big money. Yeah, and so that I think that affected the morale in the dressing room a little bit as well, because there was players there who'd been there sort of 4, 5, 6 years trying to get to that level. Yeah, and maybe hadn't earned or weren't earning the money that 1 or 2 came in on as well. So that maybe had a detrimental effect to the dressing room. But to put exactly, I mean, I'll be honest, there's a number of us didn't play as well that season either. So yeah, I think there was a number of factors that came together and conspired to us not being as good that second season.
Okay. You moved on from Ipswich to Charlton. You were at Charlton, I think it was at 03 to 09. And I suppose at the end of Ipswich, I think you played in era-wise in the Premier League. Certainly my favourite era. It was, not that I say football's not the same, but you had the Arsenal teams, the Chelsea team, obviously United done 3 leagues. Have you seen any major changes in the Premier League now compared to what it was like back then?
Well, I mean, it is a slightly different game in the fact that, tackling and the characters perhaps aren't quite in the game that we saw previously. There's cameras everywhere, and you can't do anything without being seen. So I think maybe there's not as many characters, maybe there's not as many, I don't know, tough guys really. Okay. I think people now are pigeonholed into certain positions as well. Like midfielders you're either a sitting midfielder or an attacking midfielder. For me, I was a box-to-box midfielder. Yeah. Certain players, you can think of like Roy Keane and people like box-to-box midfielders, people who could do bit of everything really. Yeah. And now I think you're pigeonholed a little bit into being a certain position. But I mean, look, it's the quality of the Premier League still high. You've still got some amazing players. The skill level, I think, is excellent. I think what I would say, some of the academies have got a bit of. I'm trying to say. I think players now who come through an academy are almost like robots a bit as well. I think that they sort of learn, you know, get the ball, you pass the ball, you move, all those. You don't see the same sort of flair players, like maybe like a Damien Duff, someone like that. I think someone like a Damien might have his dribbling taken out of his game a little bit in an academy, if he was in an academy for 5, 6, 7 years, which I think is wrong really as well. I think you should, that sort of natural talent should be encouraged. You know, all right areas of a pitch, of course, but you know, when someone's that good and that talented, you want to see that on a regular basis, and you don't want to take that away from a youngster either. So I think that does happen in academies now.
Do you think that there's maybe a sense that with kind of social media and players' reputations, that like when you were kind of starting off, you with George Burley, then you went on, you had Alan Kersey, you would have had Harry Redknapp, that maybe now when young players come on the scene, they have 6 or 7 good games, and at times it's not even young players, but they can tend to ride out the storm on reputation. Whereas you go back to when you were playing, you know, there was no, you know, you were kicked out of the team. If you didn't play well, you were gone. Is it not as strict anymore on how it's managed?
I don't know about that. I think that's still the same. I think if you're not performing, the squads now are so deep. But I think it's more of a squad game now, isn't it?
Okay.
You know, there's a 25-man squad, and I think players accept that they're not going to play every single game. You know, they might be rested for a certain game, they might be left out of a certain game, a certain cup competition.
Would you be happy with that?
I would have been fuming. I'd have been absolutely fuming. If I got left out of a cup game or something, you know, it didn't matter who it was against. Dagenham and Redbridge away in the cup, and the manager said, "I'm going to give you a rest today." So what do you mean you give me a rest? I don't need a rest. I'm all right to play. You know, I didn't want to miss games. Simple as that. And I think players, there's an acceptance now that that's going to be the case.
Yeah.
Which I don't think was the same 15, 20 years ago. I think that has changed. You know, it has become more of a squad game now.
And if players maybe got more responsibility for their own body now compared to what they might have had back in your day, whereas you play through the pain in your day, like it or not, but Harry Redknapp or, you know, Alan Kersey, George Burley wasn't taking no for an answer, especially with their captain. Whereas our players may be a bit more likely now, if they're carrying enough, to say, look, I need a rest today.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I hated missing games, and if I had a little knock, you know, and the manager asked me how I was, I'd be absolutely fine. I'm okay. I'll be no problem at all. Strap it up. I'm good to go. But I think now players, as I say, would be not happy to miss a game, but be more careful and be more conscious of what the effects it might have on their bodies long term as well. You know, the times I get out of bed in the morning, you'd think I should be shot. Really, I mean, limp down this corridor. You know, and you think, really, it's because I played games when I wasn't fit. You know, but it's I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't want it to be any different than that.
You missed very few games. I read somewhere, I can't remember if it was Ipswich or Charlton, you only missed 1 game. And I think that was through international commitment. It wasn't even through injury or anything like that.
Yeah, I think at Ipswich I missed 1 league game in 6 years, and that was Gillingham away, and it's because I was playing for Ireland,
Well, we mentioned Tough Men there a while ago. You had a year with Di Canio at Charlton. What was he like training with every day?
Do you know what? He was a brilliant character.
Yeah.
Mad as a hatter, absolutely mad as a hatter. He'd pick arguments every single day. If, you know, in a 5-a-side, he didn't get a decision go his way. I don't know, maybe once a fortnight he'd probably walk off the training ground because he wasn't happy about a decision that didn't go his way or something. But he was the first one in. He was the last one to leave.
Okay.
He was 34, 35, I think, when he arrived.
Yeah.
He was one of the best trainers I've ever seen. Honestly, his fitness levels were ridiculous for someone of his age, and on a regular basis, he took your breath away with some of the things that he could do with the ball. He tried to make the easy look difficult sometimes. You know, he tried the most difficult finish when a ball came across to him, just to do something different, really.
Yeah, some of the goals,
just to show how good he was. You know, you remember his goal against Wimbledon, one of the best ever Premier League goals. But he did that on a regular basis, and he just make you go, wow, this guy can play. But he didn't score as many goals actually that season for us as he probably would like to have done. But he set a lot up, and he was a good influence around the place. Good influence for some of the younger players to see someone of his ability working as hard as he was I thought he was a decent character. I mean, he had his moments. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
He hated flying. His pasta had to be cooked 7 minutes and 7 minutes only. He had some real weird quirks, but he was a good character.
Yeah, he was some character, all right. We're going to get on to the Irish stuff in a minute, Matt. But just before we go on, obviously there's a lot of talk now about Project Restart and stuff like that. How do you view what's going to go? Or if you were a player yourself back playing now, what would you like the situation to be?
Listen, I'd play with a broken leg, so it wouldn't have. It's difficult. It's difficult to ask me. I think it is a fragile position at the moment, and we don't know which way it's going to go. Obviously, lockdown seems to be easing. They've said that professional sport can start behind closed doors from June the 1st.
Yeah.
With that in mind, and if there's a safe environment, then I just hope that football can come back. It's going to be a long time, I think, before we see crowds. But if we can get a game on, and we can start watching some football again, yes, please.
Yeah, we'll all be glued to the Bundesliga in a couple of weeks when that starts back.
Well, that starts next week, doesn't it? Next Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've all got our German teams to support now, and see, it'll keep us going for the weekend. Go on ahead.
No, I was going to say I'll be watching. We haven't had sport now for 7 or 8 weeks, so just any sort of sport would do me.
I was interested there. It just kind of picked up. You said the can he only came to. He was 34, 35, and he was still in great condition. Your career you moved with the times in the sense that when you kind of started, it might have been the older culture, and by the time you were finishing, it was very much a complete different culture. Were you ever, when you were starting off, were you in the drinking clubs and that sort of way, or were you always kind of looking after yourself?
No, I was always someone that did look after myself. I wouldn't have wanted to come back to a pre-season overweight and not able to do the running and all that sort of stuff. I mean, if you come back now 2 or 3 pounds overweight, you're in trouble. Yeah. Back then, there was players that come back a stone overweight. At West Ham, I remember Julian Dix being a stone overweight and wearing a black bin bag for like 3 or 4 weeks just to sweat it all out before the season started. But no, I was always one that tried to look after myself as much as I possibly could.
Okay. I obviously, when we announced you were coming on, Matt, the amount of messages we got, people interested in your Ireland days and stuff like that. So how did they come about? Is it your grandmother is from County
Monaghan? Yeah.
Monaghan. And it was you approached George. You said to George Burley, I'm eligible to play for Ireland. He made the call to Mick McCarthy. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure that I sort of said to George about it, and he phoned Mick, and then Mick phoned me at home actually. And you know what it's like. You think one of the lads is messing about, usual, and no, sure enough, it was him. He asked me to play a B international at Bray and against the League of Ireland 11. And played the game and was pretty much in the squad after that, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he'd been to watch me play quite a bit, I think, Nick. And I remember actually reading his book. He said he saw me at Oxford and wasn't really that bothered about me. He said, I thought I was all right, but, and then he said, and then I played the B international and then realised close up, that I was a decent player. And, so that's how it all started, though.
And I suppose the glory years with Ireland, I suppose the qualifiers and the 2002 World Cup, you remember fondly for the goals. You scored one in qualifiers against Portugal. You didn't start that game, though, did you?
No, I was on the bench, came on at half time, and it was 0-0, and we'd been battered first half, absolutely battered. And Mick said just sit in front of the back four, don't venture too far forward, just try and protect. We'll try and get an extra body in midfield, and they were the instructions really. It was only early on. I think it was about my 7th or 8th cap. It wasn't sort of it was one of my early ones, and we went behind about 10 minutes into the second half, and then we sort of came back into the game a bit and started to venture forward a bit. And I remember Roy passing the ball and sort of picking it up, thinking, well, no one's coming towards me. Because my first thought was I'll get the ball and I'll deliver it into the box and pass it. Then still no one came, and I took it on 5, 6, 7, 8 yards, and then decided, well, I might as well have a go. And Yeah, found its way into the back of the net, fortunately.
Came off. We played them at Lansdowne as well. I think we rode our luck the first half hour there. Rui Costa smacked the post, and
he was brilliant. He was some player, but Roy was immense that game. I think of all the games I played with him, I think that was his best performance.
Yeah, my dad just said that to me today about that game.
You froze a bit there. Sorry. You froze a bit there. Sorry.
Yeah, you're all right. My dad actually just said to me today about that game. I think a lot of people, when they talk about Roy, they talk about the semi-final in Turin and stuff like that, and maybe the Dutch game. But a lot of people reckon the Portugal game was his best.
Yeah, I think the Portugal game was his best. I mean, look, he had some great games, didn't he? And what a great player. But I think that he's remembered for that Holland game for kicking over Miles 6 foot in the air. But I think the Portugal game was his best performance, definitely.
And what do you remember about the Holland game? I remember being a young fella jumping around the sitting room, and it was just my memories of it. Obviously, McAteer's goal, but we definitely rode our luck in that one.
Yeah, we did. I mean, some of the players that they had on the pitch at the time, and they had 4 world-class strikers, and that was a backs-to-the-wall effort at times. Obviously, going down to 10 men as well made it more difficult. I mean, the goal was McAteer's finest moment, and he was another great character. But we definitely had to sort of withstand a bit of a barrage that game.
Yeah, and who was the qualifiers then? Was it Iran?
Yeah, Iran. Yeah, in the playoff. Yeah, so we beat Iran, didn't we? 2-0 at home. Then went away, and I mean, Shay Given actually was brilliant in the first game. He made a really good save 1-on-1 in that game, and we won the game 2-0. And then I think Roy was injured or suspended for the second leg, so he didn't play the second leg. And the atmosphere in Iran was ridiculous. I mean, 100,000 people. They'd been in the stadium sort of 4 or 5 hours before as well, praying and all sorts of firecrackers as we came out the dressing room. It was a ridiculous atmosphere, and we managed it. We to be honest, we did what we had to do. I mean, I know they scored very, very late, but we'd sort of weathered it all, and I think we dealt with it pretty well, to be honest. I mean, we didn't do much attacking ourselves, but it was just more a case of containing, and I thought we did a decent job there.
Yeah, and I suppose we get to the World Cup then, and look, you've been asked a million times before about the whole Saipan thing, and we've heard all the answers. We probably heard as much as we're going to hear, so I'm not going to bog down too much on it, to be honest with you. But from a personal point of view, obviously I was young. I remember the highlights in that, so I was asking my dad today. He says you were probably just shading it over Mark Kinson to get into the start anyway. But before the World Cup, if you look around now and you look back on that team, Shay Given, yourself, Roy, Damien Duff, Robbie Keane, Steve Finnan, they were all important, all big players at big clubs playing in the Premier League. And I suppose it's easy for us to kind of ride on the team spirit and that, but that was a serious team.
Yeah, it was a good team. Good characters as well. I think that's the key, good individual players, but a lot of captains there as well. People that captain their own clubs, and a lot of leaders in that dressing room as well. So I think we did have a good side going into it. And there was a lot of belief about us as well. I think when we had that much quality, we had a goal scorer, Robbie. I mean, which is important. Someone put the ball in the back of the net. I remember sort of talking to managers about it and saying, if I become a manager, what's your best bit of advice? And a lot of them said to me, you're only as good as your 2 strikers. If you've got someone who can put the ball in the back of the net, then you've got half a chance. And we had that in Robbie. Obviously, Damien played up top as well, and he was brilliant. Shay in goals, and world-class players, but world-class characters as well. Yeah. I think that was really important about that group.
And the first game, obviously, I suppose it's going to be our fondest memory of you in an Ireland jersey. We go 1-0 down to Cameroon. What's going through your head after you stick that in the back of the net to equalise?
Well, you lose it, to be honest, for a bit of a period. It's a blur, that moment where it hits the back of the net. You think, Christ, I've just scored in the World Cup. Like, what do you do? And I just sort of ran off aimlessly, really. And it took me a little while to realise that actually I'd seen my dad and my wife and kids and knew where they were. So I ran around the back of the goal. I'm struggling. in the stadium, yeah. So they were there. They were there at the ground, and so I sort of shrugged them off and waved to them. And it wasn't really until I got back to the halfway line, they're kicking off again, that it sort of just sinks in really. But the first sort of 10, 15 seconds, it's a blur. It's like, what have I done?
Yeah.
What have I done really? It's a pinch yourself moment, you know. Dream to play in a World Cup, but then to score as well, it's extra special.
Of course, we all remember the Germany game as well with Robbie's goal in the last minute, and then we beat Saudi Arabia to go through to the next round. Was there a certain kind of feeling amongst the players that maybe the pressure was maybe off because there had been so much scrutiny on the group beforehand? You know, if you didn't get out of the groups, it would have been directed at you about Roy. You had got out of the groups. Was there suddenly a little bit of the pressure off you going into the next game? Or?
I don't know really. I think we put pressure on ourselves. To sort of say that we could do, you know, we could go well in this tournament, and that we could have a good run at it. And there was, as I say, a lot of belief. I think that the first half of the Cameroon game was a bit of a hangover from what had happened.
Okay.
And Mick had sort of made a big thing about no regrets. And at half time, I remember him coming in that game and saying what we've been saying, and there's posters all around the dressing room saying no regrets. And he said, "What have we been saying?" And sort of that sort of kicked home really. And from the second half onwards from Cameroon, there were no regrets really. You know, we gave it everything. We played as well as we could do. We played well against Germany. We played well against Spain. I think in the 90 minutes we deserved, or in the 120 minutes we deserved to beat Spain.
Yeah.
I mean, you look back and think what might have been, but I don't know. I think you put pressure on yourselves really to do well. It's a big stage, big tournament. You want to do well, you want to impress, and I think players put that individual pressure on themselves.
And what was Mick like as a manager?
I love Mick. I mean, I'm biased, and you know, he gave me my chance, and but he was always very honest, and that's, you know, as a player, that's the one thing you always want, really. You know, I remember scoring against Portugal, thinking I'll be playing the next game, and I remember getting back to Dublin, and the first thing he sort of put his arm around me and went, "You're back on the bench in a week," and I was like, oh. He said, "Look, the two lads in there have been doing great." He said, "I don't want to change it. I'm not going to play three in there again. You know, I think it might have been Cyprus at home. Don't want to play three in there." He said, so you're going to miss out. You're going to be on the bench. And as much as you're disappointed, as much as it hurts, you accept it. You know, I think he was one of those that you got in the team and you had to do well to get yourself out of the team.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, because he was very loyal and very faithful to his players. So I think that was a good trait, to be honest.
Yeah, loyalty. It's not a word. I suppose when you hear them talk about Mick McCarthy, that word I think comes up every time about him. Is there a bit of disloyalty in football, or is Mick just a very, very honest character?
Well, I think there probably is. Yeah. As I say, the managers that I've enjoyed the most have been the ones that are pretty upfront, really. Tell you how it is, you know, and don't bluff it, really. I'd rather know if I haven't played well, I've done this, I've done that. I'd rather be told, and we can move on, rather than just sort of fluff it up and say, "I'm resting you this week" or whatever. Just leave me out. If you know, if you don't think I'm doing it, leave me out. But don't tell me I'm doing well and I'm having a rest, because that's not really what you're doing. You're just dropping me.
Are players able to take that sort of constructive criticism, shall we say, these days? Are they able to take that honest approach, or is there nearly a sense that you have to wrap them in cotton bud, you give out to them, you mightn't get the performance out of them?
I think there's an element of that. I think, you know, not everyone, of course, but I think there are players now that would perhaps not react in the right way to that. I think that they would want an arm around the shoulder rather than sort of a rollicking. But I think I'm not saying a rollicking, but I just think the honesty, really, and you have to deal. You have to deal with it. It's a tough old world, and football's no different. And not everything's rosy, not everything's perfect. You're never always going to play well. But it's I think when a manager's sort of honest and tough at times, you have to accept that.
I'm not trying to take it back now to the Spanish game, but I am interested in maybe in the psychology side of it. Is that how do you cope with the highs, obviously, of scoring the Cameroon goal, and then the lows of missing the penalty? Do do you just need the season to restart straight away again? Is it on your mind for a while, or how do you cope with it?
Still on my mind. It's still on my mind.
It was an awful penalty shootout anyway.
Yeah, no, I wasn't the only one to miss. I think that probably would have been worse. I think
it's 3, wasn't
it? 10 penalties and 9 had been scored, and I was the one to miss. I think that would have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
But no, it was tough. It was the lowest point, absolutely, of my career. Kev was brilliant. Kev Kilbane, I know you had him on, and he's a great guy. And he afterwards, we were sort of back at the hotel, and I was sort of in tears in the room, and he was the first one up and saying, "Look, we're going out. Come on." I was like, "No, I'm staying in. I can't." He went, "No, we're going out," and he was brilliant in that respect. No, it's a tough moment. It is tough. I mean, I wasn't a penalty taker at club level, particularly. I took them in shootouts. I only took 8 penalties in my career, and that's the only one I missed, and it's the only one I blasted. Believe it or not, I placed all the other 7. I've made my mind up though. Big stage, I was just going to put my foot through it, down the middle. Yeah. It's just what I was going to do. Didn't change my mind. Just whether it's adrenaline, whatever it was, I just got too much on it, and it hurts now. I don't like looking back on it particularly. Really.
Kevin's a great lad, isn't he? He's another one that probably doesn't get the credit he deserves. One of my best mates is an Everton fan, and they still rave about him, how he plays.
He's a top guy, honestly. Just a really nice bloke. I mean, good footballer. Fit as a fiddle, and just someone when you go to war, you want someone in the trenches. You'd have Kev alongside you. He's one of those. Yeah. He's just a top man. Yeah.
I seen a TalkSport shared something. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, where they were going through most underrated players in the Premiership. Do you think you got the credit that you deserve? The amount of games you played. I think yourself, Michael Carrick, and I can't remember who else were on the list. What do you think of that?
Look, it's very, very flattering, but that's for others to judge, really. I look back and I'm pleased with what I achieved. Yeah. I think I probably got everything out of my career that I possibly could have done. I don't think there's much more I could have done, really. Yeah. So I look back fondly in that regard. But in terms of talking about myself, I don't really like doing that, and that's for others really to sort of say if they thought I was this or that, then great. But and it is very flattering, of course. But no, I'd let others judge them whether I was underrated or not.
Yeah, well, you had a long career, and I suppose you lived every boy's dream. Professional footballer, it doesn't get much better.
Well, it is a dream, and as a kid growing up, that's all I ever wanted to do. First slept with my first pair of football boots for about a week. Couldn't get them off me. I was up and down the touchline watching my dad play from an early age. Football's always been my life. It's always been my passion. I'm lucky now that I'm still talking about it in the media. Still going to lots of games. Well, not at the moment, but hopefully we will be soon again. But yeah, I'm very lucky to have done it because it is a great game. It's a great sport, and absolutely love it still. So I still get a buzz. I still get the goosebumps when I go to games. I still get you hear the noise, the atmosphere, the smell of a football game. The whole thing just gives me real goosebumps still. So very privileged to have done it. I'm very humble really and honoured to have been able to do what I did, and I look back with no real regrets, to be honest.
Good. We've a lot of quick fire questions and stuff like that. We get to them at the end, but I just wanted to ask about the punditry. Was coaching ever something you wanted to get into, or was it the punditry the role you were happy to go in, or did you do the badges? Or
well, I did my B licence, really enjoyed it. I got offered the reserve team manager's job at Charlton when I was there.
Okay.
It was, I think Andy Townsend was the one really who said to me, just keep as many doors open as possible. Whichever one opens, then sort of go down the route that you feel. And the media route probably opened up more than the coaching management route. I didn't go, in all honesty, I didn't go searching for the coaching management job. Being a manager's pretty stressful. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't get much of a break. You're always on the phone.
Yeah.
My personal life probably would have struggled with it. So yeah, I never went searching for it, but it's not something. It's not something that. There's always a bit of you thinks, what if? You always think I'd like to have had a go at it, maybe, but I think I'm probably now maybe too long out of it, I'd say.
Just and with the punditry, we had RTE's Alan Cawley on here a couple of weeks ago, and I was asking him. He had a long League of Ireland career, and was it something that you were conscious of, maybe going into punditry, that you were going to have to maybe criticise players at some stage on it, and maybe during your playing career, if someone had criticised you, you were thinking, "What? He's sitting up in the stand." How did you adapt to that role?
Yeah, I think I struggled with it a bit in the first sort of couple of years, really, of doing it, because a lot of the players that I was sort of talking about were ones that I played with or against, and I found that pretty difficult. Now, don't know as many of the players really, so it's probably easier now to do that. Don't get me wrong, still, you still know the lads and you get to see them at games and stuff, and but I am very conscious of that as well, because I've been there. I know what it's like. I know how difficult it is. So I don't think I am overcritical at times when I'm doing the punditry or the commentary and stuff, because I could put myself in that position and made enough mistakes myself. So I wouldn't say I'm overcritical, but I think it's easier to be critical now, having been out the game a little bit longer.
Okay, the three, like you say Bournemouth, and then particularly Ipswich and Charlton, the team running through them, they're very much family clubs. And at each of them, you were made captain. At Charlton, you were made captain straight away. Why do you think that the managers, they had that confidence in you to make you captain, especially at the three clubs?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know really. I mean, I was always quite comfortable talking to the media and that sort of stuff. So really, that was all fine in terms of trying to be a leader for the club in that respect. I was always someone that worked pretty hard at the game and led by example, if you like. So maybe that's something else as well. So yeah, it's difficult to know really. But as I say, I think there's probably a couple of reasons why. I was pretty reliable, usually fit, played a lot of games, and so yeah, there's a number of reasons maybe that they thought that was the case.
You couldn't ask for much more than that out of the player.
Someone's laughing. Someone's just said classed as Burley's boy. They did. Kieran Dyer and the boys used to call me that, Georgie's son.
Go away.
Yeah, I used to get that all the time.
Kieran was with you at Ipswich, wasn't he, before he went to Newcastle?
I was with Kieran at Ipswich. Yeah, I was chatting to him a few weeks back now, and he sort of taking the mickey out of me a bit even then.
Was he a joker of the group?
I was with him about I'm trying to think, about a year or so. Yeah, he was. He was even then quite chirpy for someone who's so young as well. Jim McGeown would have been one of the lively ones as well at Ipswich. Yeah. So yeah, there's some good characters. Yeah.
Yeah, the older characters are hard bet.
Huh?
The older characters are hard bet in some of the stories.
Yeah, exactly. Some of the stuff that used to go on, Christ.
You won't be able to repeat it live on air.
No chance. Not a lot of it, no.
We won't hold you much longer, Matt. Obviously, there's questions just firing in, so
go for them.
We'll put a few to you. Going to ask you to pick the five-a-side team from players you've played with. You don't have to include a goalkeeper. Kevin Kilban was on a few weeks ago, and he refused to put a goalkeeper in. So you can play whatever formation you like of players you've played with or against.
Cool, blimey. Well, I have Shane goal.
Okay.
I've definitely got to have a keeper.
Yeah.
Rio Ferdinand, centre half.
Okay, not bad.
Yeah. I'll have Robbie up front.
Yeah.
And then I need two midfielders, don't I?
Mm-hmm.
I need a bit of flair and I need a bit of steel. So I'll go Roy.
Okay.
And now I need a bit of flair, someone who do a bit of magic for me. I'll maybe play Duffer in there.
Duffer, yeah. Yeah, how good was Duffer actually? He was
so good, unreal. So good. Couldn't get the ball off him. You thought you had, and somehow he'd wriggle through and still had the ball. You think, how's he done that? I had no idea. He was my roommate at the World Cup actually. He slept 18 hours out of 24. It was ridiculous. I've never known anyone sleep as much as Duffer. Honestly, frightening.
But that was the next question actually. Who was your worst roommate during your career?
The worst roommate? Oh crikey. I was all right, to be honest. I always sort of got the controls and I was for the TV. I don't know. I didn't really have a bad roommate. I just got quite lucky. A lot of the time I was on my own a bit as well. So
okay.
It was all right.
Okay, fair enough. The best player you've played with and against?
With and against. I mean, I always say Roy. Really. I mean, Roy. You wouldn't say he was the best individual passer, finisher. header of the ball, all those things. But put it all together,
Yeah.
and he just had an unbelievable footballer. I mean, you know, he really was such a leader, such a captain, such a, you know, driving force, really. So I think he was probably the best. I mean, against, I think, so difficult. I played against, you know, Brazil and Italy, and some of the, you know, Rui Costa, I thought was unbelievable when I played against him. I played against him in a pre-season friendly against Fiorentina. He was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, literally ridiculous. Couldn't get the ball off him, and he never left the centre circle. I was like, how's that happened? How's that happened? That Man United midfield, actually, of you know, Beckham, Keane, Scholes, and Giggs, that was pretty special to play against.
Yeah, and you come up against the best. And as I said, I think you played in the best Premier League era. You would have come up against, obviously, Lampard, Gerrard, Sen, the likes of
Vieira.
Patrick Vieira, yeah. What was he like to play against?
Yeah, you thought you were away, and then he stuck out a leg and he got the ball somehow. It's like ridiculous. Yeah, another class player, really. It was good era playing against some good characters.
Yeah, I think it was the best era, but the best goal you've scored?
The best goal I scored came, well, probably against Leeds in a 3-3 draw for Charlton. I actually scored one just as good for Bournemouth against York City, but probably 1995, 96, something like that, years ago. Hit it from about 30, 35 yards, and it bent. Dean Kiley was in goal for York, believe it or not. And I'm trying to find footage of it, but I can't find it anywhere. Yeah, that's probably just as good. It's not my favourite goal is obviously the World Cup, but the best would be that Leeds one, and probably, and this one I scored for Bournemouth against York, but I can't find footage of it anywhere. It must be there somewhere.
We'll try and find it for you.
I know.
Finishing up, Matt, your best sporting memory?
Best sporting memory?
Yeah.
I mean, I was a Man United fan growing up.
We get on all right, so
83 and 85 cup finals. 85, Whiteside scoring the goal against Everton. That would be one of my favourites. So I'll probably go with that as a United fan growing up.
Did you ever go to the United games when you were growing up as a boy?
Yeah, used to go quite a bit, actually.
Don't forget.
Well, my dad was a big Bolton fan. And so he used to take me to Bolton. He played for a team that were round the corner from Bury Football Club. And so we used to go and watch Bury. But when he had a weekend off or something, he would take us to Old Trafford and treat us to a game at Old Trafford. Yeah. So we went a few times a year, 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah, my first game, my dad brought me over to was United Coventry the year after we won the treble. And I think your first game, your first Premier League game, walking up the steps as a boy, it's an experience. It's an experience you don't forget.
Just a quick story, Mike. So I when I was at Charlton, I played with a lad called Jose Semedo, Portuguese lad, and he was best mates with Cristiano Ronaldo. Okay. And so I said to him, "Do you reckon you'd be able to get him some tickets for the derby to play Man City?" I said, "I want to take my boy for his first ever game to Old Trafford." And so he said, "Yeah, I'll sort that out." So I'm thinking, "Yeah, of course." I've driven all the way to Old Trafford, thinking, I hope these tickets are there. Please let those tickets be there. And went to the ticket collection point. 2 tickets left by Cristiano Ronaldo. And my boy, honestly, was about 8 at the time. He was 7 or 8. He looked at me and went, "Cristiano Ronaldo?" I went, "Yeah, Cristiano." So we had he still got the envelope in the ticket. So his tickets left by Cristiano Ronaldo. And we sat in the players sort of families bit. And United played, won the game, won the derby as well. So
unreal.
And the fella behind him had a Man United badge that he gave to my son, and said, "You'll remember your first ever game at Old Trafford." So yeah, it was class. Yeah,
unreal. Yeah, that's my first game to shame. Anyhow, I was in the top corner of the North Stand. I could barely see it, but I was only 9 as well. You don't really think about it at the time.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Matt, I can't thank you enough for coming on this evening and giving up your time. Thanks so much.
Pleasure.
And thanks for all the memories. Honestly, the amount of messages we got in since we've announced this, and every one of them with fond memories, and the amount of people kind of writing in saying you remember the goal, you remember the game, and nothing but fond memories. So thanks for everything, and thanks for coming on.
No, I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on. Keep safe, keep well. Everyone watching, keep safe, keep well. We'll get through this, and football will be back soon.
Great stuff, Matt. Thanks very much.
Take care.
Take care, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.